Hi guys, hope you are all well. Today I'm making a video. I probably shouldn't. I don't know if you can hear it. I am full of a cold. I'm deaf in one ear. My throat is just hideous and eye makeup is non-existent because the moment I try and put mascara on, just streamy eyes. So really shouldn't be trying to make a video. Add to that this is now my third go at starting this. It's probably the gods telling me to stop. But I'm feeling brave and I want to make it. It's just not coming organically, shall we say. So today is the 19th of July 2019. While I'm recording this, I'm not 100% sure when this is going to go up, if it's going to go up, but I wanted to record this. It may just be added to the hard drive of videos Katy made and didn't feel brave enough to share. It may make it on the internet. So the biggest question, or the most frequent question I get asked on this channel is, do you have any children? Why don't you have children? Would you like to have children? Along that wavelength. Been making videos, I think, been making videos since about 2013. Started off just doing like makeup and hauls and things, and a lot of the girls that I made friends with at the beginning of this process, as time's gone on, they've turned into mummy bloggers. I have not. And yeah, you kind of, and that's happened with like online friends and real life friends, you know, that's kind of happened. With that question, I get it a lot on videos, I get it in real life as well. I am the other side of 35. I have been with my husband for 16 years. Why wouldn't we have children? We're married, we have our house that we own a share of along with the bank, you know, we're in good jobs. Why don't you have kids? A lot of the time I ignore those questions. If it's in real life, you can't ignore them. I normally, you know, still practicing, do you know what I mean? But online presence, when that question comes in, I mostly ignore it, delete it. I have made a couple of videos on that topic, or like there's been Q&A videos and I've kind of answered that question and then moved on. I would always say I've been very honest, been very real in those videos. Like, I have not lied, but I haven't told the whole truth, I think is the best way of putting it. So yes, I've stated in the past that John and I would very much like children. We have experienced loss over the years, which is really hard. The bit that we've left out, and it wasn't necessarily lying, I just think holding back a little bit of truth just for us. Does that make sense? So the reality of this is, I don't know why I'm so nervous having this conversation. It's just you, me, Alexa, Darwin George is there, Gilly's on the floor. I'm feeling nervous.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Alexa's not sure. Alexa, stop.
Thank you for listening to Absolute Radio 90s. Goodbye.
So yes, so the bit that we've not shared and the bit we've kept to ourselves is that John and I have been doing IVF. We've actually done 2 rounds, both unsuccessful. Obvs, there's no baby here. That's what we've been doing. We have now agreed that we are ready to do round 3 and try again, and this time I think we're going to try and be more open about it. Our circle of trust on this topic is very small. Very small. Like John's mum and dad know, my mum knows, obviously my boss knows because I've had a lot of time off work, a lot. And yeah, the circle of trust is small. Why? It's not that I don't, like, my sisters don't know, or at the time of recording this, my sisters don't know. Obviously they shall be told before it goes on the internet, hopefully by my mum. The reason why we've kept this to ourselves, it's not a shame thing. I want to say that first. Infertility for us isn't a shame. It's not a shame thing. I read enough blogs and reached out to enough people on Instagram and things that some people do experience that. That's not kind of our process. We have no control over that this has happened to us. We're just trying to make the best of the situation. So it's not really a shame thing. It's more of a, it's not talked about. Like, John and I have been trying for children since 2010. Fertility is not something that you openly speak about. Even like women kind of do, but not really. Men definitely don't talk about this kind of thing. So it's not one of the topics you bring up over dinner with your bezies, is it? And then it's also, in a way, we were doing it to protect our loved ones. We have gone through IVF twice. It has failed twice. And breaking that news, like telling my mum, was heartbreaking. And like, my mum cried a lot. And obviously she was crying for her her lost grandchild, but she was also crying for me as her child. And making your mum cry is horrendous. And obviously we did that to my mum, and we did that to John's parents, and even my boss welled up. Do you know what I mean? He's a big, gruff northern man, and the first time I saw him after the last failed cycle, he literally welled up and squeezed me. I have a very large family, and I don't think I could, or previously I always thought I couldn't cope with causing that much grief to them. It's also scary. It's scary for when you're doing it, but I think it's scary watching a loved one do it. In my second cycle, I felt ill the first cycle. Obviously we're injecting hormones and things, but I got through it. The second cycle I felt much worse. I was actually on the phone on my lunch break to my mum, and I collapsed in Poundland. My mum was in the same county, but like, she doesn't drive, and she was like, even in a car, it's probably 30 minutes away from where I was. And obviously I was just on the phone, and I just stopped. And I was saying, I told her, oh, I feel a bit dizzy. And then the phone went, and I hit the deck in Poundland. Do you know what I mean? I scared my mum that much. I did that to her. And then obviously there's the procedures, which are very, they're scary when they're happening on each other, like in your couple, but it's also scary for your family. And, there's a risk every time you go under general anaesthetic, and that's scary for people. So again, the less people that know, the less fear there is. But there's also, it's mostly the disappointment when it doesn't work. So I probably should give you, well, I don't have to, but I'm giving you a little bit of a story of our fertility story. So John and I decided to try for a baby when we got married in 2010. Here in the UK, they pretty much don't pay attention to you until you've officially been trying 2 years. So it took to 2012 before our GP would make a... All right, Darren. Yeah, so it was like 2012 before our GP would refer us to the fertility clinic, and then obviously there was a waiting list. So when we finally got to see the lovely people at the fertility clinic, they weren't great. I feel bad saying that because obviously we've been back there since, and the people that we deal with currently, or have dealt with in the last couple of years, have been fabulous. But the individual that we saw at the end of 2012 was vile. We'd waited months for this appointment to see a consultant, and then we got there and the consultant wasn't in, and we had to see her assistant, who was rude and blunt and completely honest, the most unfeeling medical professional I've ever dealt with. She basically turned around and said, "You're too fat, go away." For those of you that don't know, or those of you that are new to me today watching this video, or you've only been with me for a couple of years, I used to be, I still consider myself plus size, but I used to be like super plus size. I was a size 28, 30. I was a big girl, very confident in that size, very happy in that size, probably more confident in myself physically then than I am now. But yeah, basically they said, "You're fat, go away." So then start the process of losing the weight. That took a while. Well, no, I have to be completely honest. We went kind of in denial for about a year and was like, you know, stuff them, we'd do it ourselves, let God's plan, whatever. And we were a little bit delusional for a bit. And then I went off and was like, no, come on, let's do this. We've always wanted kids. Literally on our first date, we talked about wanting kids. And yeah, I lost, at my greatest weight loss, I'd lost 9.5 stone. I have put on weight since then, not gonna lie. So fast forward, Katy, skinny-ish, 9.5 stone lighter, rebook our appointment for the fertility clinic, wait, rock up at the fertility clinic, you know, blood tests and this, you know, looking up your woo-ha and all of that, and yeah, 9.5 stone lighter. Where's my NHS funding? Done everything you asked for. No. At that point we were told that I was still too fat. And I need to go away and lose 2.5 stone. And I was like, I've just lost 9.5 stone. How can I lose more? And I don't know if you've ever lost weight. And there's this thing that says, oh, the last 10 pounds are the hardest. Well, when you are like super morbidly obese, like I was, that 2.5 stone is the bloody hardest. And I was defeated. I was like, I can't physically. At that point, you know, we were going to the gym multiple times a week. I was eating a high protein, low carb diet. My weight had plateaued. You know, if I started eating less calories, I wouldn't have been able to go to the gym. I got to a point where bits of my hair were falling out because I wasn't consuming enough calories. I couldn't physically do any more without doing like one of those weight loss plans where you eat 500 calories and, you know, I just couldn't do that to myself. So he said, there must be something else we can do. What else can we do? At that point, the NHS, National Health Service, free at point of entry, turned around and said, well, you're too fat to have it on the NHS, but you can pay for it now. Whereas 9.5 stone earlier, even if we were paying for it, they wouldn't have allowed it. It just felt so ridiculous to me. It's like, so you won't, you won't help us because I'm too fat, but you'll take my money and help us. And it just felt really bizarre. And maybe if we lived in a country where you paid for your health care, but here we don't pay for healthcare. You know, in different parts of the county, different NHS clusters have different guidelines. So maybe someone with my weight in Wales would be able to have it. The same as different parts of the country, like Oldham, there is no free NHS unless there are loopholes for certain people. But you know, if me and John lived there, we wouldn't be able to get it. But at the time of when we were trying for this in Cornwall, you were only entitled to one free go if you met the criteria. If we had moved to Wales, would have been able to have it done at those weight limits, and we'd have been able to have 3 goes on the NHS. So it was a little bit of a postcode lottery. So yes, I'd done all this hard work, I'd lost this weight, and the NHS still kind of went, no, lose more weight. And I just, if you've never had a weight problem, it may sound really stupid to you, I couldn't physically do any more. So John and I did what we do best, put our head in the sand, pretend it didn't happen, had a few fabulous holidays, and then decided to start looking into it and looking at paying for it. And that's what we've done. The last, our 2 rounds of IVF, we have paid for it. Not in this country, because it's crazy expensive. So all those trips to Gdansk in Poland, that's what we've been doing. We do love Poland. John is currently going through the process of getting his Polish passport. Hopefully he'll have that by Christmas, and he will be a Polish citizen. But yes, we go to Gdansk because that's where our fertility clinic is. It's basically almost, I think, half the price of what it would be here in the UK. And some of the things are none of it's more expensive than what it would be in the UK, but some of the tests are so much cheaper. Like there's one test that John's had that I think it costs like £100, the equivalent of £100 in Poland. It would cost us £1,000 for that one test in this country. So that's why we go there. The type of IVF we have had in the last 2 goes is called ICSI. I'm not going to go through details now, but it's IVF and a little bit extra. Yeah. So we have decided that we're going to do a round 3. We're going back to the same clinic. We're going to do the same process. I currently have a fridge full of drugs ready to be injected. Oh, that's the thing. The first ever injection we did at home. John's the chemist, I'm the doctor. That's our routine. So he does all the measuring. I inject myself. It's the system that works for us. So yeah, that's our process. I'm at a point where I'm scared because obviously our last 2 rounds didn't work. But I'm also really excited, and I'm ready to do it and for it to work. So yes, that's us being honest, I guess. I have so many hours of footage. I've said about this in the past. I really enjoy vlogging. I quite enjoy editing. I don't always upload them. I have so much footage from our previous IVF journeys that I just have on our hard drive, never to be seen or shared. I'm considering sharing a lot more of this journey if that's something that people want to see. I don't particularly know if this video is going to be helpful to anyone. I know a lot of the times I've felt lost and I felt lonely on this journey, and part of that is my responsibility for not sharing it. Like, I have a IVF Instagram account, which I get a lot of strength from, and I've shared things on over the years. It's set as private currently. I might make that live, I'm not sure. But like silly things like, you know, what do people eat? Because there's so many recommendations out there. There's a lot of it on YouTube, but it all seems to be by clinics. You know, buy our $80 nutrition drink to guarantee IVF success. And it's like, really? You know, I don't want to look at something from a company. I want to look at something from a person. You know, and there are people that just do all organic. There are people that go vegan. I am reducing my dairy on this process. I did that the last 2 times, hence why the tea is black. But yeah, that is what we're doing. And I suppose the answer to the question is I'd really like a baby, and IVF is expensive, so we've got to do it at the pace that we can afford it. Oh, someone's going to comment on how much I spend on food halls from that. I am ready to be more open about this. I'm really hopeful that this round 3 is our last round, and this is kind of like the first video on that journey that I'm sharing, and you'll be able to see a process and see what we do. And I never know, I might throw in some clips from the other goes. I'm getting rambly. This is possibly the best take of this I've done so far. But yeah, I don't know if I'm meant to say anything else. There's nothing worse than trying your absolute best and it not working. You know, we took all the medication. Like the last time, the second round was the worst round. I've got to be completely honest. I was adamant it was going to work. We had these 2 beautiful, like high-rated frozen embryos waiting for me. We took all the drugs. We took, you know, we ate all the superstition, you know, the blimmin' bone broth and the McDonald's chips on day of transfer and pineapple core and all the things that you're supposed to eat, and we didn't eat all the things you're not supposed to eat. So there's a lot of things you shouldn't eat while doing IVF. Some of it is real, some of it is old wives' tale, I suppose, but hell, I'll try it. I was so confident. I had a lot of nausea after our last transfer, and it just didn't work. You know, our little embryos didn't stick. That was painful. Like, physically, I've never experienced pain like it. Emotionally, the only thing I can compare it to was when my dad died. It broke me. Like, it took me to a dark place. Super freaking hard. And, you know, after round 2, I really said, never again. We're not doing it. This is it. Hello, Gilly. You can't drink tea. You know, puppies and holidays will be enough. It broke me, and I'm very fortunate. A lot of the people that I have befriended through IVF online, you know, their relationships have ended as a result of IVF. There is resentment between each other, the lack of sharing, the lack of empathy, you know, one wanting to stop, the other one not wanting to stop. couples getting a lot of debt on IVF. We've been fortunate not to have to do that, but a lot of couples seem to break up on this process because it is hard as hell. And it sounds really stupid, but I think it brought me and John even closer together. We've had to do some awful things. I've injected John's had to look after me when I'm off my face after the end of, when you have egg collection, they knock you out, or well, they do in the clinic we go to, you are out of it. And he's a very good doctor. He looks after me very well. We've had to go, literally on the floor in tears. I would say this process has actually made us stronger. But after round 2, which was horrendous, I said, I can't do this anymore. And that was my kind of choice on it. And John accepted it, because John is a big part of our, he's involved with our IVF. A lot of couples, it seems to be very the woman led. John's made a lot of trips out to Poland without me because of work. He's self-employed, he can do that. He does a lot of research online. He's very good at that kind of thing, whereas I can get overwhelmed by because there's so much information online and a lot of it contradicts the other. So he's very much part of it. Like, we have been to our clinic and you'll see husband and wife sat outside the consultant's door and only the wife goes in. And it's like, really? IVF is a journey for 2. Unless you are a single person doing IVF, it is a journey for 2. And you've got to treat it like that. And you've got to do it head on as a team. And John and I have. But he's always respected, it's my body. Obviously there's certain things that happen to John, and I might talk about that in a different video, but most of the stuff is done to me. Most of the drugs goes in the woman does the egg collection, the woman has the frozen embryo transfer or the fresh transfer, whichever you guys pick as a couple, but most of the stuff happens to the woman. And when it doesn't work, the physical aspect of it is horrendous, and that is obviously all the woman. So he always, when I said back in February, I can't do this again, he respected that and accepted that. And it wasn't until I don't want to say, hello pretty boy. I don't want to say I had a row, but a colleague of mine that knows, he said, did the, why don't you adopt? And I was like, why don't you adopt? And again, that's a bigger comment for a bigger video. If people like this kind of thing, maybe I'll give my advice on things not to say to people on IVF. Like, I know exactly what you feel like. I did IUI, or it took me 3 months to get pregnant on my second. Everybody's fertility stuff is important to them, but when people say, oh yes, it took me 4 months to get pregnant the second time, that's like, and you've done 2 rounds of IVF or 8 rounds of IVF, that's like comparing a stubbed toe to a broken leg. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it hurts. It's in the same part of the body, but it's completely different. He basically kind of said, you're going to be a great mum, you should adopt or foster or And my response was, I'm not ready to give up. And it was me getting angry at him made me realise, no, I'm ready to do this again. And John was very happy that I came to that conclusion. So yeah, round 3, happening in September. So medication starts in July. Say fridge is already full of it. Yeah. If you've got a question, I suppose you can ask. If I want to answer it, I will. I'm just ready to be more open about this. And I've been rambling for 40 minutes, so I'm going to stop now. But yeah. Do you want children? Yes. What are you doing about it? We're doing our 3rd round of IVF. Yeah. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye guys.